Hello, good morning, my friends from Facebook, also from YouTube and Energy Radio. I'm glad to be here this morning to share my experience, to share what has worked for me, to share knowledge and understanding, as I often make it clear and I'm here to convince you. I'm here to ask what you have. I'm not here to make you my disciple. I'm here to share my experience, my knowledge, and what has worked for me, and that can also work for you as you become a pioneer, as you become an innovator of the things that you will begin to do and of your future and the life of those who are around you. I often tell people that unless we become pioneers, unless we become innovators, life will just be the same and continue the same situation, the same thing, year going in, year going out. And I know that this word can relate to you, in spite of your denomination, in spite of your doctrine, in spite of where you come in front of your religion. You know that oftentimes you get tired because you do things a year going in, a year going out, things continue the same, and then you begin to ask yourself, wait a minute, I just doing what they told me to do. I'm doing what this person was doing, and it worked for that person, but it's not longer excited. It's not working. It's not working for me. Well, I want to relate to a verse in the Holy Word where the wise and the teacher, the Lord Jesus, he's found a woman who was tired, who was going back and forth their whole life, going back and forth, and things was not getting better. Instead, it was getting worse. And it was getting worse because things were not changing. So I believe that this case can relate to you. You might have a religion. Maybe you don't have a religion. But you've been trying to do things right. You've been trying to fix things. You've been trying to follow certain protocol, follow instruction. You've been trying to follow the lead of that person, of the system, or those ways of doing things so you can be successful in life and do better. But then you see that as you go along the way, things are not working. Things are not in the way that you're supposed to do. And then you say, okay, I'm going to try something else. I'm going to do something else. And then you go from one thing to the other, to the other, to the other. It becomes tiring. It becomes exhausted. It becomes to the point that you no longer want to do what somebody tell you. You don't no longer want to do what you read, what you saw. And the problem is that sometimes we become imitators. We begin to copy people. We begin to do what somebody's doing, thinking that is going to work for you. And then when you realize that it did not work for you as it worked for that person, and then sometimes we become complainers. We begin to blame a second, a third. We begin to blame the whole world, and we become bitter. You can become bitter. You can become angry. You become the person who no longer want to make a difference in the life of everyone around you. You become the person that say, okay, Now is about me. In spite of what others feel, what others are going through, it's just about me. That happens when we go a whole life just doing what we see that somebody did, but it did not work in your life. And this happened not just in the religious setting. This could happen in your career. It could happen in your love life or in any areas of your life. You go doing what they tell you to do. We don't become innovators. We don't become pioneers. We keep doing the same thing over and over and over. And then we go and we try something new. That's what happened to this woman. This woman spent so many years going back and forth, doing what she thought that it was good for her to do, until she got to the place when she said, wait a minute, I've been doing this for so many years, 10, 20, 30, 40. I've been doing this for my whole life. And it's what they told me to do. It's what religion say that I should do. Religion say I should keep this, I should keep this, I should follow this, but it becomes tiring. I don't see no change. I don't see no future. I feel like I'm stuck in this life. This is the place where you might find yourself now. This is the place where many people are, and I once found myself in that place. I found myself in the place where just doing what somebody told me to do because I thought that the person knew better than me. And the person just did what somebody told that person to do. And then we go our whole life and we pass on those things to our children because that's what we think we should do. That's how we think that life will be better, that we will achieve success, and therefore we pass on the same thing to our children. We pass on to the same people. We become the record. We become the record that keep repeating, and it is just nothing new. It's just much more of the same thing. Either I switch location, or either I move from city to city, either I move from country to country, but it's just the same thing. A little or much more of the same thing. No change at all. We become, as I said before, we become repeaters, or we just copy it. We don't seek ways to become innovators, pioneers. When the teacher found this woman, he realized one thing. He realized that she was living the life of going by the emotion of the same thing over and over and over. And even though that she tried to bring some time of some meaningful time to her life, situation became worse And when he saw the woman, he could see that she was not a person who wanted to do evil, who wanted to do bad. She just was a victim of what was happening around her. She just did not have any choice. She could choose either to be in one side or be in another side. She did not have a choice, but he gave her a choice. He told her, you don't need to go by the motion. You've been doing this your whole entire life, and your whole entire life you have ended up in the same place. Sometime a little higher, sometime a little lower, but yet just the same place. He told this woman, if you ask, if you decide to want much more, he said, you will ask, and then I will give you a completely different way. I will show you that there is much more than just doing the same thing. But she said to him, but this is what my ancestors, this is what somebody that once was very, very successful did. And therefore, he told me to do the same thing. But he said to her, well, we are different. We are living in different times. We are living and facing different situations, different challenges. And if you want different results, if you want a different outcome to your life, you must ask, you must seek for something new. To be not somebody who copy, but to be a pioneer. He said, if you will ask me, I will tell you. I will give you, show you a new way that you don't have to go back and forth and at the end up tired. You don't have to. What you will have, it will be enough for you and for those who are around you. And sometimes we cancel people and we just tell them the same thing that somebody told you. Somebody told you, then you tell that person to pray. Somebody told you, I'm going to keep you in prayer, and then you tell that person, I'm going to keep you in my prayer. Somebody said to you, well, I'm going to fast for you, and then you go and you tell the person to fast for you, but not knowing that the challenges of today might need a different approach that only the Creator can give you. How do you know if your life at this moment, somebody's life at this moment needs the same thing or a completely different approach? Unless you ask, unless you seek, unless you search for that which only the Creator can give you. As I said before, we often go doing the same thing. What they told you to do, what they taught you to do. Like this woman. This woman spent her whole life doing what somebody told her to do. Going every day back and forward. Back and forward. and end up in the same place, in the same situation, and even sometimes even worse, until she decided that she needed something higher, something that will work for her life at that very hour. She realized that she needed to stop doing the same thing. And I speak to you and to people who are tired of the same blah blah blah, the same religion, the same way of doing things, and end up in the same place. When this woman, when I got to a place in my life that I said to myself, it have to be much more than what they told me. It have to be much more than what I heard. It have to be something deeper. It have to be something higher. Then it was given to me. It was given to that woman. A person must have a desire to elevate her or himself much more. A person must have a desire to go up. A person must desire much more of just the same thing over and over and over. And I can tell you today that there's something deeper than just religion, than just denomination, than just going from one group into another group, hearing somebody who sounds religious, who sounds filled with light, who sounds eloquent, who sounds smart, who sounds you have to be a source that you could go. Because when you go to the source instead of just doing what somebody tells you to do, you will stop going back and forth. You automatically will reset your life for a new beginning, for a new life, for a new way of thinking and seeing things. As from that point on, the woman's life was reset. She was no longer going back and forth, because something different took place in her mind. Her mind was open and elevated to a different level. She saw something that she never saw before. I saw something that I never saw before. When I got tired of going back and forth, and they say it must be a way that, because when you spend your whole life going back and forth, you get tired. Unless you say to yourself, I want to go to the source. I want to go to the source. Because when you go to the source of strength, when you go to the source of inspiration, with the source of peace and life, You no longer need to go back and forth, trying to find it, trying to get it, try to get there before everyone. I'm sure this woman got tired because sometimes there's a big line of people going back and forth. And sometimes you become tired because it becomes a competition. It becomes a competition with the person who's next to you, in front of you. And when it becomes a competition, it becomes a struggle. And then you begin to fight with those who are around you to see who can get there. But when you have the source available for you, you don't need to go back and forth. It is just available. The knowledge, the understanding, it becomes available for you. So instead of going back and forth, the source become your own source. So we oftentimes spend time following what somebody tells you to follow, instead of going straight to the source. Instead of taking the time to reflect, to meditate, instead of taking the time to ask, and also taking the time to receive. Sometimes we choose the easy way, the way that somebody tell you go there. It's easy. Somebody tell you go there, you go there, and then you come back, then you have what you needed, instead of finding the source. The source that will lead you maybe to the place where nobody's there. But it's a source that once you find it, it is available all the time for you. The source of knowledge, the source of peace, the source of strength. And this woman found the source. She didn't have no need to go back and forth anymore. So as I found that the source, my mind began to expand. I begin to see what I could not see before. So my dear friends, I'm glad to share this good experience. This good experience, and I'm glad to share this true story of this woman that instead of going back and forth, she went straight to the source. And as she found the source, she became a completely different person. I'm glad to share this message, and I pray that you have been enlightened. I pray that you begin to ask yourself and say, I need to go to the source. I need to stop asking, and I need to stop begin to look for and asking another person but the creator, the source. Until then, you can always connect to Facebook and to YouTube and also to my podcast on Energy Radio. Until then.